Roxana, great to see you. Laura, nice to see you as well. Okay, so today's webinar is on how you can still help Texas families claim the 2021 expanded child tax credit, not just this fall, but beyond, and really getting into how this money is still on the table for a lot of families. And so, there are possibly a lot of families in Texas. There are a lot of families in Texas who still haven't claimed these funds, and we want to try to get that money to them. So my name's Alini Dafonseca. I'm a child tax credit outreach coordinator with the Coalition on Human Needs and Partnership for America's Children. And I have been working on this along with a colleague of mine, outreach for the last year, and just getting the word out to communities across the country to help them share information on the CTC, and get families their money. So what is the expanded child tax credit? So the CTC, not in the 2021 expanded CTC, not only meant more money for more families. Well, I'm sorry, it meant more money and more families becoming eligible for the expanded credit. So originally the CTC was $2,000 per child, ages 0 to 16. And now it has been for the year 2021, it was increased to $3,600 per child ages 0 to 5 and $3,000 per child ages 6 through 17. So a significant increase in how much money families could claim, and also an increase in age, an additional year for children to be claimed as a dependent for the credit. There's no minimum income requirement. Families with no earned income are eligible for the full credit. So families who aren't working and don't have a regular income coming in can still claim the credit. And the credit is fully refundable, meaning families are eligible for the full amount even if they don't owe taxes. So families were eligible to receive half of the CTC in 2021 and half when they filed their taxes at the beginning of this year, or the full credit if they didn't get the advance payments in 2021. And what we're really going to be talking about today is the families who either didn't get the second half of the credit by filing a tax return at the beginning of the year, or haven't actually even claimed the credit at all, and how they can still do it outside of tax season. Okay, so this is just a great example of how much money is actually on the table for families. So if we're looking at a family with a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 7-year-old, in total for that family, for the 2021 CTC, the family would receive $10,200. And that doesn't even include additional money that they might not have claimed yet through stimulus payments or other state or federal tax returns. So it's a significant amount of money, and especially when you think about families who aren't currently working or low income, this could be some life-changing funds that that families can get access to. So who is eligible for the 2021 CTC and how do they claim it? So adults can have a social security number or an individual taxpayer identification number, but children must have social security numbers, and those social security numbers must be valid for employment. The dependent must be the adult's child, including adopted, grandchild or stepchild, younger sibling, step sibling, half sibling, or their descendant, or a foster child placed by a government agency. The dependent must have lived with the adult in the US for more than half the year. There's some exceptions, like babies born in the second half of 2021. And the dependent did not provide over half of their own support in 2021 either. And this is the most significant change in the post-tax season time this year. So specifically speaking about families, mixed status families, so where adults have social security numbers or ITINs, as just mentioned, adults can have a social security number or an ITIN to claim the CTC for their children, but the children must have social security numbers. Now, if they have a current ITIN number and they didn't claim the CTC and they didn't file taxes for 2021 yet, they can still file to claim the CTC and potentially other credits. If they have an expired ITIN, they can also still claim 2021 CTC by submitting a Form W-7 to renew their ITIN and then filing a tax return. We have a great link here on how individuals what they can do with an expired ITIN. We'll share all these links afterwards with you. But the biggest change is that if a family never has had an ITIN and they didn't have an ITIN by the end of the tax season this year, or didn't file a tax filing extension in order to get the ITIN in time, they can no longer claim the 2021 CTC. They can still apply and get their ITIN, of course, and to file taxes and potentially claim credits in future years, but they're no longer eligible to claim the 2021 expanded CTC. So the biggest message we have for today, for this fall and beyond this fall, is that even though tax day has passed, families can still claim the CTC. So as mentioned, individuals with no or low income can generally still file without penalty if they're required to file, but are due a refund from the IRS. And they can also still file without penalty. So perhaps from something like they're due a refund from something like the EITC, their income was really low or low enough where they didn't have to file a tax return, so they didn't file a tax return. They can actually still file a tax return and claim the CTC, even though it's past the end of tax season, without having requested a tax filing extension, if they're owed a refund back from the IRS. And individuals have 3 years to claim any tax credits they are owed. This is really important because this means that the CTC is actually on the table for families to claim through tax season 2025. The IRS has a 3-year look back. So there's a 3-year window for people, not just with the CTC, but with any other tax return that any other tax credit that you can file or amend a tax or submit a late tax return within a 3-year window and still claim the tax credits. And for individuals who are worried about filing because they owe the IRS, perhaps they owe child support or they owe back taxes, that's why they haven't filed. It's still worth filing to claim the credit if they're eligible for it, because all that money can go towards paying off their debts. And then, it clears them up to claim credits in future years. And I also want to emphasize too that none of this is in an effort to make anyone on the ground, a tax expert. The idea is that we want to give you all the resources and the information needed so that you can tell families where they can go to get the help they need to claim the credit. So now talking about getctc.org, this is the simplified filing tool that helps families claim the CTC and the third stimulus payments, and actually the EITC as well now. It's IRS approved. It's the IRS approved official e-provider created by Code for America. It's available in English and in Spanish. It's mobile friendly. It has chat support available, and it's going to be open until November 15th of 2022 this year to help families claim the credit. So who can claim the CTC using getctc.org? So families who have not yet filed a 2021 tax return can use GetCTC. They have to have made under $12,550 as a single person, or $25,100 as married filing jointly in 2021. They have to have earned less than $400 in self-employment income. They have to have a social security number or individual taxpayer ID number, as we talked about, and children must have need social security numbers. They must have lived in the 50 states or DC or in a US military facility. And they did not have advanced premium tax credits. These are credits individuals would receive to lower their monthly health insurance payments. They're still eligible for the expanded CTC if they receive these credits, but they just wouldn't be able to use getctc.org. They'd have to file a full return. And right now I'm going to play a short demo video from getCTC that'll take you through the app. So give me just a minute. Okay.
This video will show you how to use the 2022 edition of Code for America's simplified tax filing portal, GetCTC. GetCTC allows families without a tax filing obligation to file a simplified 2021 tax return to access the child tax credit and the third stimulus payment. GetCTC e-files a simplified return directly with the IRS. It's mobile-friendly, accessible, available in both English and Spanish, and chat assistance is available at any point in the process. People without children can use it too, just to access the third stimulus payment. This is what GetCTC looks like at our launch in May 2022. Note that we constantly update the tool in response to user feedback, so it may look a little different later in the year. First, GetCTC will go through a few steps to confirm that it's the right tool for me. The tool asks first how I'm filing my return, single or married. Then the tool confirms that the IRS allows me to use simplified filing, since households with higher incomes or other special circumstances, like self-employment income, are required to file a full return. If, for example, I'm not sure what counts as self-employment income, additional information is available below. GetCTC will then warn me that I could get even more money by filing a full return, since I can't get the EITC or state credits from this tool. To get the first two stimulus payments, I would have to file a 2020 tax return. Those who choose to file a full return or back taxes are sent to Get Your Refund, which allows families to file using Vita services. For now, I'll opt to continue with this tool. Next, GetCTC will ask me a few other questions to confirm I'm eligible to use the tool. It lists a few additional and rare scenarios that GetCTC does not support, and will ask whether I already filed a 2021 return this year. If I already submitted a return, the IRS would reject a new one I filed through this tool. Then, GetCTC will confirm I lived in the 50 states, DC, or a U.S. military facility last year, since overseas and territory residents are currently not eligible to use simplified filing. Finally, it will confirm that no one can claim me as a dependent, since that would make me ineligible for the CTC and stimulus checks. I've now confirmed I'm eligible to use GetCTC. In the next section, GetCTC asks for some basic information about me. I'll enter my name, date of birth, and social security number. Note that I could also enter an ITIN. As required by the IRS, GetCTC asks for my phone number. It also asks if I was a member of the Armed Forces in 2021, since that could impact the amount of my recovery rebate credit. As required by the IRS, GetCTC asks if I am legally blind. Finally, GetCTC asks me to agree to the privacy policy. Then the tool will check if I filed a 2020 return. If I did, GetCTC would collect my 2020 adjusted gross income, which the IRS requires from filers for authentication purposes. In this case, I'll say that I didn't file last year. On this page, we ask clients the contact method we can use to best reach them. Note, GetCTC does not require clients to create an account and does not require them to have an email address. Clients simply have to sign up using their email or their phone. In this case, I'll choose to sign up by phone. GetCTC will send me a 6-digit code that I must enter to confirm it's mine. For the purposes of this demo, I'll enter a fake code on this page. Note that if I don't finish my return in one sitting, I can log back in and continue using this contact method. Next, if I were filing married, GetCTC would collect needed information about my spouse, their name, date of birth, social security number or ITIN, and 2020 adjusted gross income, if applicable. In this case, I'm filing single, so GetCTC will skip this section. In the next section, GetCTC allows me to list my 2021 dependents. Rather than assume I've read all the tax rules, GetCTC asks me all the key questions I need to answer to make sure I can claim my dependents. Keep in mind that the pages clients see in this section very much depend on the answers they provide. First, I'll enter my dependent's basic information: name, date of birth, relationship to me, and SSN or ATIN. We ask about one specific scenario to confirm basic eligibility. Next, GetCTC will ask me to confirm a few more criteria. If at any point my dependent doesn't meet the main criterion, GetCTC will ask whether one or more valid exceptions apply. Behind the scenes, GetCTC will determine which credits my dependent is eligible for. Finally, GetCTC will show me a list of my dependents, including whether they are eligible for CTC or only for the third stimulus payment. I can keep repeating this process until all my dependents are recorded. For now, I'll say I only have one dependent. In the next section, GetCTC will determine my credit amounts. First, GetCTC will figure out how much CTC I can claim. The IRS requires families to report how much advanced CTC they received last year and subtract this from their total credit. GetCTC makes this process easier by calculating how much families should have received based on the dependents they provided earlier. I can say that I got this amount, a different amount, or no payment at all. In this case, I'll say I got the estimated amount. GetCTC calculates the remaining CTC available to me. Next, GetCTC will figure out how much recovery rebate credit I can claim, that is, the third stimulus payment. As with CTC, the IRS requires families to report how much they received last year. Again, GetCTC will display how much I should have received based on my family structure. In this case, I'll say I got a different amount. GetCTC will ask me to enter what I received and provide some tips about where to find this information. I'll say in this case that I received $200. GetCTC will then let me review the amount I'm claiming. Finally, GetCTC will collect my payment information and allow me to review and submit my return. I can select direct deposit or a mailed check. In this case, I'll select direct deposit. GetCTC asks me to confirm that my name is on the bank account, so the payment is not rejected. I'll provide my routing number and my account number. And finally, we'll have the chance to confirm my information. The IRS also requires that I provide my mailing address. GetCTC allows me to enter identity protection pins for anyone in my family who has one, and provides more information about what an IP pin is. I'll say that no one in my family has an IP pin. Now, I can review all the information I've submitted and go back to edit anything that's wrong. On this page, as required by the IRS, I set a 5-digit PIN that I can use to authenticate when I file next year. On the next page, I'll see a final summary of the payments I am claiming. Next, I have the option to submit my driver's license information and my spouse's if I were filing married. Especially for clients without a tax filing history, the IRS may process returns and issue refunds faster if this information is submitted, and we recommend clients provide it if possible, but it is not required. If I don't have a driver's license or don't want to provide the information, I can skip this page. Finally, I'll agree to our terms on the last page, and I'll file. Just like that, I've filed my simplified return. GetCTC will alert me within a couple days whether my return has been accepted or rejected by the IRS. Most clients hear within a few hours. If my return was rejected, GetCTC will provide me with a plain language explanation of why, and allow me to log back in and resubmit my return. You can find GetCTC at getctc.org. For more resources about the CTC and stimulus payments, visit getctc.org/navigators.
Okay. So that was GetCTC. And now we're going to talk about what the options are for individuals who have to file a full tax return, and as well as resources to use for next tax season. So who might file a full tax return rather than file through getctc.org? So individuals making above the filing threshold that I mentioned earlier, who don't meet one of the other criteria for GetCTC or who are eligible for additional money through other credits, can access the CTC through full tax filing. So I want to say before I get into these resources for filing full tax returns that some of these aren't available right now because we're outside of tax season, but we want to share them with you anyways, because you can most certainly use them when tax season starts back up again next year. And when tax season starts back up again next year, GetCTC won't be available anyways. So everybody, whether or not they qualify for GetCTC, if they want to get the CTC during the next tax season, they will have to do some form of full tax return filing. So so I'm going to go through some of these, and again, all of this will be shared with you, so you have the resources to use through November 15th and beyond. So as we are outside of the tax season right now and resources are limited for free tax filing assistance, a lot of people, if they hear about this and want to get the CTC and don't qualify for getctc.org or want to do full filing because they can get other credits they didn't know about, will probably need to find a paid tax service. So we have guidance here. We have a link that's from the IRS on how to help people choose a reputable tax preparer. It's a list of about 10 different questions that somebody can ask to make sure that they are getting their taxes completed by somebody reputable who will do the return to the best of their ability, high quality, and help them get the CTC. So that's for paid tax preparers. So for free tax assistance, there are the AARP Foundation tax aid sites. So these sites are only open during tax season, so they're not open right now, but they provide free in-person and virtual tax assistance. They're a little more focused on individuals who are over 50 or have low to moderate income. But when they're back up, this link will take you to where you can find different foundation tax aid sites in Texas. There's also the low income taxpayer clinics, or LITCs. These are available right now as well. These actually do not prepare, don't help with filing or preparing a tax return. What they do help with is anyone who's having a custody issue. And what I mean by custody issue is situations where, let's say, perhaps the grandparents have full custody of the child, but for some reason, the biological parents have claimed the CTC. And what can they do in that situation to get the CTC for the child if somebody else has claimed them, who shouldn't have? Low-income taxpayer clinics can help families sort that out. The main advice is that people would have to file a full tax return, but the LITCs will help people navigate their particular cases around issues like that. And then, of course, there are local VITA sites. So many VITA sites are still closed at this time of the year. So, but depending on where you are, you actually might be able to find an open VITA site. I know that once you get into more city, highly populated areas, there tend to be a VITA site here or there that's open year round. So, but when they do, they'll reopen in late January. When they do reopen, some VITA sites can help with amending tax returns. So this is particularly important for anyone who filed their tax return last year, didn't claim the credit because they didn't know they had been expanded and that they were now eligible, and want to amend their taxes to get that money. Some VITA sites can assist with that. Just need to ask ahead of time. We also always mention that for married couples, to make sure they know that both partners must go. And that's the link there. That's the Get Your Refund link. Get Your Refund link. So if you go on getctc.org and you start answering the questions as was mentioned, and you are not eligible to use Get CTC, it's going to reroute you to getyourrefund.org, and then you can find a VITA site. There's a VITA site locator in that as well. Get Your Refund, which is also not accessible right now, will become accessible on January 31st, I believe. They also provide free do-it-yourself tax filing services online. There's a limited capacity, but they also have free virtual tax filing assistance that includes opportunity to talk about your situation with a tax specialist over the phone. So those are, again, two resources that will have way more availability once tax season opens back up again, and we just want to make sure you were aware of those. And now let's talk about some common barriers and concerns around the CTC, common questions that come up. So first being, does receiving the CTC impact other public benefits? The answer to this is no. Getting this credit will not change any federally funded public benefits that a family receives, like Social Security, SNAP, childcare subsidies, or WIC. Will receiving the CTC affect someone's immigration status or ability to get a green card? The answer to that is also no. Under the current law, receiving the CTC or other tax credits will not affect a person's immigration status, their ability to get a green card, or their future immigration plans. Use of tax credits is not considered in a public charge determination by USCIS. Will the IRS share someone's immigration status with other government agencies? The answer to that is also no. The IRS is forbidden to share an individual's tax information with other agencies. There's limited exceptions to this, and they're related to certain criminal investigations or to determine someone's tax liability. In those cases, we always recommend that a family or a client be referred to legal aid or immigration attorneys, anyone that can help them with their own particular case. And there's a link there as well for the IRS website on more information on that. And this actually we already went over, and that's the ITIN. And will an individual ever have to pay this money back? So first and foremost, the CTC is not a loan. If someone receives payments for a child who is no longer their dependent, they may have to pay that money back. So this is in the case of perhaps somebody just automatically received the automatic payments in fall of 2021 because they had a child with them on their tax returns that the IRS used to determine if they could get the automatic early payments, but that child was actually not with them in 2021. So, and this could also apply to anyone who claimed the child that they weren't supposed to claim as well. So there are some protections for those with incomes below 40,000, 50,000 for heads of households, and 60,000 for married couples. For anyone who claimed received payments for a child who is no longer their dependent. There's also some more limited protections for those with higher incomes as listed there as well. And what if someone has not filed tax returns in recent years? We went over this a little bit earlier, but so people with very low incomes under 18,800 for head of household, 25,100 for married filing jointly are generally not required to file. And also that 12,000 number we mentioned earlier as well for filing single. Even if they are required to file, generally there's not a penalty if the IRS actually owes them money. So if they if they went ahead and submitted their return and the IRS owed them money, there's no penalty for that. Taxpayers can file for the past 3 years, as we mentioned, to receive the refunds they are owed. And we like to let people know who have any sort of questions or hesitancy around claiming the credit because they either owe back taxes or child support, that they can benefit from claiming the CTC because the credit will essentially go toward paying off their outstanding child support or tax debt first, and then they're going to receive any amount left over. If it all goes towards what is owed, that reduces their debt and means they'll be able to get tax credits in future years. And this is just a quick note on IRS letter 6419. The IRS sent everyone a 6419 letter showing how much they got for the CTC. For anyone filing a full return who received the advance payments but didn't get the second half of the CTC by filing a return this year, they'll need to use that letter when they file their tax return. So whether they go to a tax preparer or a Vita site or even do it online, they'll have to have that. If the amount listed on the letter does not match what a family received in advance CTC payments, they should check their IRS online account. The link is there. That's going to give them the most up-to-date amount, and they can use that amount when filing tax returns. And this is particularly important for, let's say, a family didn't even receive the advance payments because the IRS mailed the check to them at an address they're no longer at, but the IRS is showing in the system, or the letter 6419 is saying that they got this check. Going to the online account will give the most up-to-date information for any family in a situation like that. And just briefly want to touch on child tax credit outreach and what that can look like, especially in the next few weeks. If you want to do any sort of outreach to let people know about getctc.org, these are some of the findings we've had from our own work, some focus groups we did a while back, as well as work that partners have been doing as well, and what we found that is useful in outreach. So outreach that's integrated into existing programs and communications is works really well. So if you already have a program, you're already working with families, adding a component, a piece that talks about the CTC, whether it's adding a question on a questionnaire or just letting staff know, can be really useful. Families receiving multilingual information multiple times can be really useful. So sometimes families have to hear this quite a few times, especially if they're not familiar with the CTC or didn't realize they would qualify for it. They might just not believe it the first time around. So it's important that families hear this multiple times and in the language that they speak. Outreach should include clear info on how to claim the credit. So when you can, I'm going to share with you our toolkits. Our toolkits are full of different resources and flyers in I think the initial invite that was sent out to the association, there was also a link to 11 flyers that we have in 11 different languages. And those flyers are completely editable, and you can put in information about where people can go and get help. And also that many families aren't actually going to need additional assistance filing after they're directed to get CTC. If you're able to provide assistance, that's wonderful, but requiring a family to schedule an appointment to go through getctc.org, we found isn't necessarily useful, helpful, and can kind of keep people from moving forward in the process. But having assistance available if people need it is helpful. And then this is just additional outreach for anyone on the call interested in doing mass outreach. School districts and government benefit agencies are among the most trusted sources of information for families. So wherever there's relationships there, it can be a really good way to get out information to families. Text messages, for example, from schools or agencies have been especially effective, but also robocalls, emails, mailers can also be affected. And in addition to hearing from trusted community messengers, which CHWs definitely are, combining that with other experts in tax, immigration, or family law can also really be helpful. So that's sort of coming together of CHWs or anyone else on the ground working one-on-one and having really close relationships with families, also having the information to share with them on if they have questions about their own personal tax information or concerns about their immigration status. When you can put those two together, families tend to trust that more and be able to move through the process in claiming the CTC. And we have a website. All of this information is on our website. It's childtaxcreditoutreach.org. You can check that out to see previous recordings from other webinars that we've done. We're always adding new and up-to-date information on the CTC. After November 15th, and as we move into the new year, we'll be sharing a lot of information and updates on what the CTC will look like for next tax season. So it's not clear yet on if the CTC will continue to be expanded, and if it's expanded, what it'll look like, or if it'll go back to what it was in pre-2021. But this is a great resource to keep up to date. These are all our different toolkits. As I mentioned, these toolkits are full of all sorts of different resources, mainly flyers, FAQs. So lots of questions are answered in the FAQs, and we have toolkits for partners, for public agencies, for families, schools. The families toolkit is really great because it gives all the sort of quick resources that a family would need, like the W-7 form, or how to find a reputable tax preparer. We also have all the forms you need, a list of all the forms you need to file your tax returns. All of that is there, and it multilingual. Many of these resources are in English and in Spanish. And this is just a list of all the different sort of things that you can find in the toolkits. And these are just screenshots of some of the different flyers that we have. We also have a lot of different little social media graphics and posts that are ready to go if you want to use social media to share information out with families. And then I also quickly want to talk about one other benefit that can apply to families who qualify for the CTC, and that is affordable connectivity program. So the ACP is for individuals are generally eligible if their household incomes are under 200% of the FPL. So this can be a lot of the families that we're still trying to reach, families who are low income, who perhaps didn't realize that they qualified for the CTC because they don't normally file tax returns. The same people who fall under that category can also qualify for the ACP. They also qualify if they or someone they live with currently receives a government benefit such as SNAP, Medicaid, WIC, SSI, Pell Grant, or free and reduced price lunch. And the benefit includes up to $30 a month discount on internet service, or up to $75 a month discount if the household is on qualifying tribal lands. And there's also a one-time discount for up to $100 for a laptop, tablet, or desktop computer. So you can find a lot of this information at the acpbenefit.org. We also have a link to the acpbenefit.org and the forms you need to fill out in our toolkits as well. And if you have any questions after this, or in the future, please feel free to reach out to me. That's my email there. I'll also put it in the chat. And I'm going to open it up to Q&A right now if anyone has any questions. I'm also, while I'm waiting, going to put some of these links in the chat. Again, I apologize that we weren't able to get this in Spanish. We weren't able to get our translator on because of some technical difficulties. But I'm also going to put in the chat a link to a webinar we did last week that is in English and Spanish. And it covers the EITC portion of getctc.org and does a smaller version of what I just did in Spanish as well. So I'll put that in the chat for you right now, and just give everyone a minute in case anyone has any questions and would like to ask. Okay. So this is the Spanish recording. This is the English recording as well. And this is getctc.org. And it actually has, that's a unique URL for the Texas Association that lets us see and share with the association any how much outreach and how many refunds you're able to get with families. So you can use that link and it'll take you directly to getctc.org. If there aren't any questions, I won't keep you here any longer. Thank you again to Roxana for having us. We're so happy to share this information. As I mentioned, there's a large number of families in Texas who still haven't claimed this, and I think CHWs and promotoras are very well positioned to get the information out to families who haven't yet. So I hope that this has been useful. Please reach out if you have any questions. I'm going to put together a follow-up email with all of these links and this recording for you to have. Hopefully that will be out in the next day or two. So you'll have all of this resource to follow up on. And yeah, please let us know if there's anything we can help you with in the future. And thank you so much for joining us today.